Hey everyone, this is Atlas Forge. I'm working on a little how-to and process video for the Forgotten Adventures Nexus module, and I sort of just wanted to get something thrown together as I'm working on a dwarven campaign, and so I figured it may be a nice way to start with a dwarven tavern just as the main starting area. And so I threw this together as sort of the outline for the map, which I'll go through soon, and I'll show how I did it. But right now this is sort of what I'm working with. I want it to have some nice, thick dwarven walls, and just give it more of a unique shape than just a big like square circle. So, with all this pre-walled and such, I'm going to open the Nexus tab. And I got a couple basic ones that I use pretty regularly. Bookmark, mainly brick and tiles. So to start, I'm going to go lasso. Oh, my zoom tool's all bugged out right now. And snap to grid. And I always leave snap to grid about half grid, because it seems like full grid is on tiles and textures it's normal, but on walls it goes to half grid for some reason. We're going to set some brick up right here. And one thing I also do is I really like just adjusting the scale of things down. I feel like it really helps making the textures just kind of fit more. Because sometimes I feel like they're almost too big in a way. But we'll set that brick to about right there. And then we'll do brick again. Set this to 75. And then rotation, we'll set that to 90. You can use your mouse wheel and it goes 1 degree at a time if your mouse has one of those wheels that sort of has the click and stops as you roll. Now, there is this large seam right here. So what I'm going to do is volcanic curb or wall or floor texture, and this will just help break up that harsh seam in the floor if we can find one we like. So we'll go there, make sure its elevation's not too crazy, double click to save that drawing, and then S to save it. So now it just kind of looks like a normal bricked walkway. So now for the rest of the room, or tavern, I want to do a walnut or ashen wood. Those are my two favorites from Forgotten Adventures. But I'm going to do a portion of the tavern is going to be a kitchen area. And I'm using a map I made for a Star Wars campaign a long time ago as my reference. It's same styled angled walkway, kitchen, storage room, top left, big bar. So I'm just using my own map as a reference because I like the kind of odd design for it. So one thing I'm going to do is table walnut. I'm going to put some tables down for a sense of scaling so I know what to kind of work around. That texture is currently screwed up. I want something that's about 1 by 2. So table arrangement. There we go. There's a lot of assets from Forgotten Adventures, but once you work with them for so long, you really start to know them by name, basically. So what I'm going to do is set this here, because I'm going to have jutting walls out every so often. So set that there, and we'll set that there. So this way, go to walls, volcanic, inner wall, and the elevation is defaulted at 20 for walls, but this main building and structure that I put around I have set to 20.5 just so I don't have to worry about overlapping. So we'll draw some simple little strutted walls just to create some depth to kind of hide these little booths. And then over here, I have this sort of set up as like a private room with the corner booth and then a door right here, which I'll get drawn on. Then we'll go to portal tool and we'll just do something simple like a wooden walnut door. And we'll just pick this one because it's the classic fantasy door with the, or classic wood door with the big round top on it. And so you can adjust the doors themselves once you put them down. You want to turn snap to grid off so it makes it easier. But one nice thing is you can unsnap it, make it a right size, then you can click double door and it'll automatically convert it to a double door for you. And then you can also flip the hinges, which flips the direction. And then flipping the texture, that's more if the door only has a handle on one side, you can flip that handle around and make it so, you know, certain doors can face certain directions, but not too worried about that, though I do want this to open outward away from them. And we want these to sort of be smaller double doors. And then you can also do a door frame, but I stick to do that just manually, just because it's currently easier to control if you just do a pillar right there. So we'll save that. And now, one thing to note, if you're wanting to make edits to the door and you're not sure how to grab it, since if you click on this texture and click the edit tool, this just brings up the actual texturing and not the walls. And that reason is because the walls are counted as the foreground layer. That's just the way Forgotten Adventures has it preset, so that way it's sort of easier to configure what you're editing. So then we can edit the wall, and then we'll click on Portal Tool, and it'll highlight the door. So if we have another door somewhere, which I currently, there we go, you can click, and then you can click between them, and the door that you're working on is highlighted in green. So we'll delete that, hit escape so it doesn't save what we've already done, and leave that there. So now, what I'm wanting to do is work on the little kitchen and bar area. So I want the bar to sort of take up the space around this rectangle here. So what I'm gonna do is, I'll actually draw something out so it's even easier. I essentially want the bar to be something like this. So there'll be stools that go around here, and then the doors to the back room will be right here. And then there'll be a wall, and then that way the bartender can sit in here and come back here. So what we'll do is go back to the wall tool, and I'm just using the standard volcanic paths for this and doing inner walls. So what we'll do is escape to cancel out of that wall because I didn't have snap to grid on. So we'll do this, this, and that. Sort of create a strange design, but, and again, I'm no architect or city planner or anything, but I'm just going with something that I think would look fun, and I try to do something that would be fun to have a encounter in. Say goblins or bandits starting to fight or something like that. There's sort of corners and alleys and hallways that players can sort of work with. So we'll go to portal while we're here, and what we'll do is we'll change the doors for the barkeep, and I believe I did walnut, yes. So walnut door, and we will do, let's see, there's a lot of options. we'll just do this door. Simple, clean. And again, since this is 3 squares, it's a little odd, but we'll make it a square and a half on each side, so 2 full squares. Make it a double door. Make it so the doors open outwards towards the bar. And then we'll just save it. But I forgot to add a door there. So what I'll do is, while I'm still on foreground layer, right click, edit, and then portal, and we'll slap a door right here. Try to snap the grid off. Shrink the door down just a tiny bit. We could make that a little double door, but it may just be easier to be one door like that. And I'm going to try to make the door take the majority of this square. That way when it's open, players are aware that it's this square they move into. So we'll do that. Get off foreground layer. And then we'll come back and we'll do the pillars later. For now, we want to do the pattern on the floor to sort of give the map a good design. So what I'm going to do is go to textures, tiles, and I like the volcanic stuff for the dwarven assets, and the drow stone. This one here is, I think, one of like the best patterns, as it's very simple and clean. But we will keep looking through the tiles bookmark, because we got some good ones down here. Such as these ones here. They fit dwarven architecture fairly well. Expert craftsmen and all. So we will do, and when you're editing tiles, you can simply click E and it highlights red to delete. So we're going to do a simple little bar texture for the flooring around the bar, and then we may jut it out just a little bit to make it more visible whenever it's there. And I'm going to set this to 0.5 or negative 0.5, so it's lower than objects that we're working with. And then we'll do, for the kitchen, we'll do this black volcanic tile. And keep in mind, when you're editing the textures, you can't right click and pan, but if you move your mouse to the bottom of the screen then zoom out, the camera zooms towards the top, and that if you move towards the top of the screen, it moves towards the bottom, and zooming zooms where your mouse cursor is. So just a handy little note. And then we'll go through and did not save that. Let me redo that real quick. Save. So I just want to get these drawings out of here now that I know what I want. So now the kitchen has a nice, like, clean tiling. And then we'll do these rooms right here. Little booths. We'll make a nice, like, dwarven texture. We'll set this down here, and we'll just make it this whole flooring right here. Actually, we'll go all the way over here too. That way when they walk in, it's sort of just clean all the way for the main booths and secret room. We'll save that, and then for the rest, we'll do a walnut flooring. Just because I like to sort of use different textures and such to get a little more like uniqueness to it. So then we'll do, we're still at negative 5 by the way, negative 0.5 that is. So see, that helps sort of break up the colors, and then soon we'll put some pathing around these spots to make it stand out a bit. And then one thing I do like to do on my big gaps that players are not allowed to see is on Dungeon Draft I use a black terrain pattern, but they don't have that in Nexus, so I just use this dark carpet, and this is sort of just for the DM to sort of give them a reference of what's like a really thick wall versus what's like playable. So pretty much all this stuff with the black carpet is obviously not a playable area. Save that, and then we'll do, let's see, is there a good cobblestone that we like? The rest of the room, we'll go back down to 0.5. That's one thing you'll want to remember, is adjust your elevations back to what they were. And do we like that, or do we want to change that? Let's see, tiles. Yeah, we'll go with that. Or is it too much? These are things I often ask myself. So let's do, there we go. So now we'll go back to paths. We'll do volcanic floor. And this will pull up all the different floor textures that we can use. Now the tough part is these corners right here. If you use the path tool, you can't really get straight edges currently. And that's sort of something I'm hoping they fix here soon. But for now, we can just use this straight edge. And we'll just make a couple different designs, and then what we'll do is just pillar volcanic, and there should be a flat square volcanic pillar in here. There we go. And we'll just do that. Sort of just corners it off for us. And we also need something right there. So now you can sort of see the design coming together of this being a tavern or a bar or whatever. And then we'll go back to our pillar. Already have it selected. Shrink that down to fit. And then we'll do one more walnut. Can do that, but I don't like how it's off center, so instead we'll do this one, just more simple. Okay, so now we got a actual like basis set, and we do need to put these little pillars up, and for these ones we'll do snap to grid off, turn the elevation up to above or 20. And that way we can soften those edges where the doors are. And I like to use the ones with the wood beam in the center here, as it just sort of breaks it up and it makes it easier to see what is and what isn't a door. So there's that. And then the tough part is building the bar, depending on which assets or which objects we want to use. Usually what I end up doing though is just using a table. And we're going to do an ashen bar, so it's a little bit different color than the floor, so it doesn't blend too much in. So we're going to do shadows. We're going to pull the shadow out a little bit. Turn the spread up and the opacity up a little bit. That just gives us some more light. See, that's what I mean with the snap to grid. Sometimes it's sort of a little off, but you do half and just like that. I also am still above elevation. One thing to note is elevation 0 to 1. Anything in between is under a token, and anything above 1 is over a token. So remember that. See, now we got this strange bar, but one thing we can do, we'll go like this instead. At the pillar on each side. This is the hard part right here, when it's a weird shape. But we'll figure it out. Let's see. There's some triangular tables somewhere. Does that look interesting or is that odd? There we go, we'll do that. Sort of a high top on the front. And then there should be a triangular table right here. There we go. So now, doors open that way, bartender walks out, and we also want to set a floor path right there. There we go. And one thing also to note, when you're building walls with inner walls with the Nexus tool, it already pre-walls everything for you. So that's very handy because it basically speeds up your map making by a lot. So exit out of there, pull up Nexus, assets, and we'll do Ashen arrangement. Let's see, Ashen, nope, didn't take that first A. Here we go. And depending on your tavern, it may be sort of a fancy, clean tavern where everything's matching, or it'll be sort of a hardy tavern where they just have mixed and matching items and tables and chairs. That's what I'm going to go for. So I'm going to turn that off. Turn those drop shadows up a little bit just to make them stick out just a little more. Set a big table back here. Maybe that's like the party area. Another table there, and I did just notice there's a piece of flooring that's screwed up right there, but we'll come back for that, or we can just hide it like that. So just like that, we got some good tables, and we'll add a table right here. And then we'll do table here, table here, and another table right here. Pull some stools up. One thing you can also do is control click, and this will let you basically put objects wherever you want, and it'll shift between the two. And I'll also randomize the textures on them and the rotation. This way, whenever I put them down, they're going to be in different alignments, which just sort of helps, makes things more natural. Unless this is a tavern of OCD dwarves, obviously. So put that away, and then we need one more table. We're booth for this little secret room right here. Let's see. One thing I also like to do is usually have like a little random sitting area for taverns. Maybe that's where some guards may be hanging out. But we will do... Could do that if we think that fits, but we want something that's a little more like a map or tools or documents. Something that makes it look like a meeting's going down. So put that in there. And now we're going to decorate the kitchen area. Now again, I'm no architect or designer, but we'll work with what we got. So first things first, big oven. We're going to set that, we want it jutting out just a little bit. And then we're going to do some more tables. Can't have a kitchen without a lot of tables. So let's see what we got. Some of the tables have like cooking ingredients and stuff already set on them, which is, there we go, there's one. So we'll set that right there, like it's their little table they walk past to grab stuff and all. Have a little table where they may sit when they're taking a rest. Let's see. Something simple like that. If you hold Control Shift while using your rotating scroll wheel, it lets you do much more detailed scrolls. And actually, we're going to change it to this, because that's more fun for a kitchen. A game of cards going on in the background. It keeps looking, let's see. We're going to want shelves in here, and we're going to want a table with ingredients. And we need a cooktop as well. Let's do shelf ashen. Could do this right above their little playing table. Let's see. Could have a shelf of scrolls and such, but keep it simple for now. Do a shelf right there. And a shelf right there. Do a rack. Should have a bottle rack in here somewhere. Let's see, rack, bottle rack. There we go. Put that up there, and then we'll also put one under the bar on one side, one under the bar on the other side, and then we'll do storage. And we'll keep it simple, sort of just give it some textures below. Gotta have your big kegs, and then we'll do a clean table in the center. Right here. bunch of different prefabbed arrangements, which I believe are from the Forgotten Adventures community, which is very nice. And basically what we'll go with is that big cauldron inside the big fire pit, and they bring the soups and stuff out. Again, things don't really need to always have an answer. That's what I've been learning. They just need sort of a reason, maybe. Obviously, there's a fire pit for cooking. Doesn't need to be more than that. One thing we can do is get rid of that and put this here instead. So now we got a kitchen. Now we got tavern. There's a bit of walking space here, but that's fine, just in case there's ever an encounter. And we also want to put some mugs and such on top of the counter, like if there's patrons here drinking and all. And then we'll do bottle. Put some bottles out. And drinking different things. And maybe there's some people eating. Let's see, we'll take a couple different things. Some breakfast, meats, breads, cookies. And then we'll throw a couple forks down there as well. And then one of the last things that we'll really do is get some lamps or lanterns going. I always set these up a little over elevation so the players can walk under them. Let's see. That's not precise. There we go. Go like that. Now, where to place lanterns and such is usually a weird one, but we'll make it simple. Again, this map doesn't have to be perfect, it's just a little example of what can be done. Put one right there. Put some outside the tavern. And do that. That. Get one there. So now that we got some lanterns, we'll make a little light. Always turn intensity down, speed somewhat down. Torch. Throw a little bit of orange in there. Color intensity can go down a little bit. Turn this up so the light's not so aggressively forward. Set that to nighttime, and then we'll do more outside in probably a different video, but this is sort of showing what my workflow looks like more than anything. So we got a wall that's glitched, so we'll delete that. There we go. And so this is what your players would see as they walk into the Dwarven Tavern. Did not put a light there. There we go. And then we'll also do a big chandelier light. We'll make this one 15, and then 30. Lights up the whole main room. So big tavern, dark corners, darkly lit, large black volcanic stone, little back room for the kitchen staff, and yeah. So this is sort of a workflow and sort of a design and how-to video, but I would like to make more. This is sort of unscripted and just kind of randomly done just to show what it can do, but maybe stick around and look forward to seeing what comes out next, because I hope to get a couple more of these out like the next week or two. So thank you all for stopping by.